Alright guys, welcome back in. We got One Piece chapter 1149 here with us this week. My name is Sai, and we are here to tackle this amazing freaking chapter. Brother, we got Imu coming to Elbaph. We got the Holy Land under attack. We got Scopper versus St. Sommers, and then Scopper losing to Gunko right afterwards. We got a lot of crazy things to talk about, but you know how we do it here. We like to tackle things in chronological order, so we do have to start with the color spread. There's not too many things I want to get off my chest in regards to the color spread. All I gotta say is that all the girls associated to the Straw Hats right now being depicted as maids look freaking amazing, especially Lilith. Lilith was definitely my favorite here. And, you know, I guess I just want to ask you guys, who was your favorite character in the color spread? I know it's a stupid question. It doesn't really have much to do with the chapter, but man, the way Oda drew Lilith, my guy. I've seen a couple of people online talking about Bonnie specifically, mainly because Bonnie is holding a book that says RAP on it, and people are like, yo, Oda, this better not be foreshadowing. You better not be saying that Bonnie or Kuma dies with this. Which, I could see that. Oda has hit a lot of plot points in color spreads before, so it wouldn't be super shocking. But there is a logical explanation as to why Bonnie has the RIP close to her chest, and that is simply because of the collaboration this color spread is for. Apparently, the Maid Cafe is supposed to be a rip-off bar, so that's why it says RIP right there. But, we'll see, right? Kuma's a really interesting one. We haven't really seen much of Kuma here in Elbaph. We know he's here, right? He's disabled. He's currently waiting to get repaired by Lilith. So, yeah, you know, maybe something goes wrong. Maybe he activates again and then protects Bonnie from the Holy Knights. But I don't know. It's weird because Kuma seems so displaced here on the island. I really don't think he's going to die. And same with Bonnie. There's no way Oda's going to kill her off. I don't believe it. So I do think this is just a funny little coincidence that Bonnie is holding up a book that says RIP. So now, moving on to the actual chapter, we pick things up where we left them last week, and we see that Scopper has landed a gnarly blow on St. Sommers. We can see him writhing in pain on the ground, and he's screaming out, "Gah!" with blood dripping out of his mouth. And I think that is awesome. Simply because we know for sure now that the Holy Knights, despite the regeneration and somewhat immortal bodies, they do take damage. They feel the pain, which is pretty important because coming off of 1148, we saw that when St. Sommers had his hand cut off, he didn't scream, "Yeah!" You know, he didn't really have a reaction to it. He simply looked at his nub and he was like, oh, it's not coming back. So it is nice to see that he is feeling all the blows that Scopper is landing, and last chapter was probably just a delayed reaction, right? He got cut so quickly, the pain didn't go to his head yet. So that is interesting, and the reason why I initially thought that they wouldn't feel pain is simply because Usopp has time and time again called the Holy Knights zombies. And going back to Thriller Bark, when we saw zombies, their main quirk was that they did not feel pain. So it's cool to see that Oda drew that distinction here. I'm glad we got that all cleared up. So after landing that first blow, Scopper immediately tries to land a second one before Sommers can get back up. But Sommers anticipates that, and he throws up a briar barrier. We see thorns shooting up out of the ground, and they're coated in armament haki, which is pretty damn awesome. Because if I recall correctly, this would be the first time a Holy Knight has whipped out haki. Right? There was Gunko, but her boots are black, and people are saying that might be haki, but we weren't really sure yet. But yeah, this is the first distinguishable moment, in my opinion, where the Holy Knights are whipping out that good old HAKI. Scopper's attack gets blocked because of it, and now that St. Sommers has bought himself a second, he finally gets back up on his feet. And he says, "Hey, Mountain Eater, what the hell are you doing here in Elbaph?" Scopper says, "Hey, it's none of your business," essentially. You know, I got no time to waste on you. And they just start going blow for blow. You see Scopper swinging his axe. You see St. Sommers trying to block it off with his giant spiky thorn Kanabo thing. Just watching them fight is so freaking awesome, man. I love it. I'm glad the fight doesn't end in like one or two blows. I'm glad they both got off a good amount of named attacks before Scopper wins. So while this is all going on, we cut back over to the Straw Hat crew, and they are just glazing the hell out of Scopper right now, and I do not blame them. He is their knight in shining armor in this moment. He is the only one who can actually fight, and he's the only one that can actually do damage to these guys. So yeah, you got Nami saying that this is the man who overwhelmed Luffy and Zoro, which is a pretty extreme way to put it in my opinion, but, you know, like I said, this is the Scopper Glaze session, so I'm okay with it. And then we have another character, I think it was Jinbei. He even said, whoa, he's equal to Rayleigh. This guy's the left hand of the Pirate King. So yeah, they're just super enthused that Scopper is here to save the day. Two characters, though, had some interesting moments in my opinion. The first one being Robin. Robin said, hey, even though I'm trapped right now, even though Sommers has me snared with his thorns, I can still fight. I can still use my Devil Fruit powers. But that is when Jinbei cuts right in and he says, no, Robin, don't fight him. Your Devil Fruit powers and your abilities do not go well against Sommers, which is something I think the general community has been talking about for a while now. While yes, Robin versus Sommers was really cool, you gotta admit it is a bad matchup at the end of the day. The other noteworthy reaction we get actually comes from Chopper. Chopper is so intrigued as to how Scopper is actually landing these blows on the Holy Knights that he chases Scopper down in this chapter. After Scopper beats Sommers and he runs off to fight Gunko, Chopper is right behind him. And then after Scopper gets knocked off the branch, Chopper jumps off the branch and chases him. So I wouldn't be shocked if Chopper learns how to hurt the Holy Knights from Scopper himself. And he might even be the first Straw Hat who utilizes that too, which I think would be pretty freaking awesome. It really does feel like Oda is giving a purpose to each and every Straw Hat, which it sounds odd to say, but I'm really enjoying it, right? Like, for example, Jinbei had the fire. Robin fought Sommers last chapter. And now it looks like Chopper is about to get a big moment here. And then hell, Brook is getting a freaking additional backstory. So Oda really is taking the time to flesh out the characters here in the Sun Realm. So yeah, now that Chopper is rushing off towards Scopper, now that he's showing intrigue, I do, again, bring into question, how do we hurt the Holy Knights? Because I'm gonna be honest, even though Scopper is using a crazy amount of Haki in this chapter against him, I do not think that Haki is going to be the answer. And the reason I say that, or the reason I make that assumption, is because Chopper is the one seeking this answer. And Chopper, from what we've seen so far, has no Haki whatsoever. Chopper has never shown armament Haki, he's never shown observation, and hell, Chopper does not have Conqueror's Haki. So Chopper chasing Scopper down to find out this answer would be very underwhelming if it's something that Chopper himself could not be able to utilize in future fights. So whatever it is, I think it will be some sort of third option, something that somebody like Chopper could end up pulling off. Like, just imagine the opposite for a minute, and the reason why it would be odd if the answer was Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Chopper chases Scopper all the way down, follows him into the underworld just to find out the answer. Scopper looks at Chopper and says, oh, I was able to hurt the Holy Knights because I used Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Chopper would say, well, I guess we can't do anything then, right? Like, I guess Luffy and Zoro are gonna have to fight these guys. Like, that would just feel really odd to me, and that is why I do not think Advanced Conqueror's Haki right now is the solution. But that is just my opinion, and I would like to pass that on to you guys. Now that we got another chapter where Scopper is just going in on the Holy Knights, how do you think he's able to land these blows? So now, back to the action, but we see St. Sommers use two abilities in tandem. He uses Thorn Rush, which sends a bunch of vines towards Scopper, and then he also uses Hell of the Crimson Lotus. And you see these little pricks just coming out of the ground, and they're making it to where Scopper cannot walk freely. And this attack, man, I think this is going to be significant. Not because it's going to be like a big damage dealer, because it isn't, right? Scopper simply jumps in the sky and just ends the battle there. But Hell of the Crimson Lotus is reminiscent to what we saw back in Impel Down, with level 1 of Impel Down being the Crimson Forest. And if you guys recall, the Crimson Hell got its name because of the spiky trees and the spiky flooring. So seeing him whip out this ability here makes me wonder if level 1 of Impel Down was modeled after St. Sommers. I wouldn't be shocked, right? We don't know how old St. Sommers is. We don't know if he is actually immortal yet, right? Like if he doesn't age or if he's been around for hundreds of years. But if he has been around for hundreds of years, maybe that's why Impel Down has that floor, to pay homage to a celestial dragon. And if that is the case, I wonder if the other hells of Impel Down will be represented through Holy Knight abilities, because I think that would be pretty damn badass. So, like I said, this ability, these two abilities, means nothing to Scopper. Scopper's up in the sky, he's over here twirling his axe, destroying the vines, destroying the thorns, and he hits Sommers with an attack called Futen Raku, which is a play on words apparently. Here on TCB, they say that this may be a play on words of Iten Raku, referring to a music composition for Japanese nobles. And then in another translation I read, they said that this could also just straight up mean infallible. So I do like the double layer here from ODA, and this attack, man, it freaking rocks. It actually cuts Saint Sommers in half. Sommers is still alive, mind you, but he's not exactly feeling the love, brother. He is not. He actually lands on his own thorns because of this attack, and Scopper does not care. You know, Scopper does not stick around to dice him up more. Scopper does not stick around to see if Sommers actually dies. No. He runs off because his main priority right now is to rescue his son. So, before we get to that point though, we do cut away and we see Ange and my man Killingham, and they just got done setting the school of Elbaph ablaze. Killingham says, hey, Ange, you've done enough. I know you did. Let me handle the rest. And he turns around to the library. He whips out a bow and arrow. I don't know where that came from. Maybe he imagined it into reality. But he whips out a bow and arrow and he sets it on fire and shoots the library. And I just wonder what that owl is gonna do. I wish we could see it this chapter, right? I wish we could like hear him say hoo hoo. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting seeing how this plays out, because I don't think the library is gonna burn, right? The school is whatever. Like, it's not like the school is that important. You could just build another school, but the library is what we really care about, right? That's where all the books from thousands of years ago exists. So I think there is a reason why it's not fully engulfed in flames right now. I think somebody will end up saving it. As far as Killingham goes, I know this is stupid, but because he whipped out a bow and arrow, in my mind, I did scream out, oh, Usopp opponent, because that's just how it is, man. It's like how when people see a guy with a sword, you automatically assume it's a Zoro opponent. That's the same way I am with snipers, right? We saw Van Augur, and immediately I said, yo, Usopp needs to fight that man one day. And now that Killingham whipped out a bow and arrow, I don't know, man. If Usopp gets out of those chains, brother, I think he might have to fight this guy. And of course, when people were talking about the matchups for the Straw Hats against the Holy Knights beforehand, Usopp was typically the main candidate against Killingham because Usopp has so many fears in his head that maybe it will overwhelm Killingham. You know, Usopp's imagination is so vast. Maybe he is the best matchup against someone with Killingham's powers. But that's just me. You know, what did you guys think about Killingham, the bow arrow? What do you think about the library? Who do you guys think will save the day? Or do you think nobody will save the day and the library will simply just burn down and the owl along with it? Which would be kind of morbid, right? I mean, we didn't even talk to the damn owl yet and it's just gonna freaking die. So now, we cut back over to Scopper and we see that he has finally arrived to where Gunko is holding the kids hostage. Gunko says, whoa, a member of the Pirate King's crew? You do know that if you resist us, I will start killing off the hostages. Scopper does not care about that. He continues rushing towards Gunko. Scratch that. Scopper cares about the hostages, but he's just trying to beat Gunko before any of that bad stuff can actually happen. And deep down, he's also hoping that Colin would not give himself away. Because it's one thing if you're holding kids hostage, it's another thing if they're holding your kid specifically hostage. Colin, though, immediately screws the pooch. And he says, Dad! That's my dad, guys. He's gonna save us. Isn't my dad freaking awesome? He literally, I'm counting it right here. 1, 2, 3. He calls Scopper his dad 3 times. You know, if Gunko had any hesitation or any doubts, it would all be washed. by the second time Colin says that that's his dad. So Gunko immediately, because of that, rushes off towards Colin, which I gotta say, man, is a pretty cool freaking panel, because you can see Gunko shooting off her arrow and then gliding alongside it, whereas Scopper is twirling his axes and is seemingly propelling himself forward with that motion. So yeah, pretty freaking awesome. But yes, Gunko does get to Colin first because she is closest. So she points her sword at Colin's neck, and that is when Scopper goes through all of it. He says, whoa, like, this is my last chance. If I get her here, I can put out the fires and I can save all of Elbaph. And he tries his damnedest. He says, hey, Colin, hold on, son. I will save you. But right before he's able to do it, his future sight activates, and he sees that Gunko would stab Colin's neck, piercing his neck through and through, before Scopper could actually put her down. And alongside that, we also get a Colin birth flashback, where Scopper's just so damn happy that Colin is born. He's thanking Ripley for him. He's thanking everybody, man. And he's like, yo, this is my treasure of a lifetime. And of course, like any man in this situation, Scopper throws down his axes. Even though he knows that him losing here could mean the end of Elbaph, he surrenders anyways because he doesn't want his son to die. And I respect the decision. I feel like any man in this position would also just give up. I mean, hell, even Dragon said it back during the Kuma flashback, right? A child will always be a parent's weakness. Even St. Sommers said it. When he first brought out his Thorn ability, he said, yeah, you know, parents are always going to try to save their kids and they're just going to get hurt no matter what. And we witnessed it right here. You know, Scopper threw down the axes despite Elbaph's best interests. And guess what? Gunko doesn't hesitate afterwards. She just whips out the arrow gun and she just shoots him 3 freaking times point blank. And we see Scopper falling into the underworld. Of course, I don't think Scopper is dead. I think he'll be fine. And the main reason why I think that is because, like I said earlier, Chopper chases after him. You can actually see Chopper's... It looks like his body. It kind of looks like scribble marks on paper. Sorry, Oda. But you know, you see Chopper jumping down there. And, you know, typically a fall from this height would kill anybody. But Chopper does have guard point, which is that giant fluffy ball form. And he's used that multiple times to cushion giant falls. So yeah, I think Scopper is in good hands. He's going to get treated by Chopper. And then hopefully Scopper will pass on how to hurt the Holy Knights onto Chopper. I just realized how odd that is to say back and forth, right? Chopper, Scopper, Scopper, Chopper. Man, those names just go together, just like the characters. So, yeah, that is the end of good old Scopper Gabon. And right afterwards, you see that Colin is distraught. He screams, "Daddy! Daddy!" And this triggers a primordial memory from Gunko. Yes, that is right. The theories were correct. Gunko is indeed just another victim of Imu. Somebody that Imu can possess and control at will. Bro. I didn't believe it, man. You know, back when we first saw Gunko, back when we first saw the double eyes, and then afterwards we got more and more fuel, like the arrow powers being similar to the arrow powers back in Marie Joie, and then the whole thing where Gunko said she was afraid of Nika. People just kept on bringing up this theory that Gunko might be Imu, or somebody that Imu could possess. I've heard that theory so many times, but I just never 100% believed it. You know, I was always on the boat that it was a cool idea, but I needed more. I needed more proof. And here we are. A couple of weeks later, man, it happened, you know? I was on the wrong side of history, man. Don't you just love seeing it, brother? The thing is that even though this isn't a theory I wholeheartedly believe in, I still love watching people get their W's. I love seeing that a community theory like this, one that had so many people backing it, actually came to fruition to some extent. So we're going to tackle this panel by panel because I think that's the correct way to do it, right? So we got Gunko remembering her past. The first panel, I can't tell if that's Gunko screaming father or if that's maybe Gunko's mother. And the reason I'm really torn on that is because in the next flashback panel, we see Brook. Obviously, it's Brook, right? Tall, skinny guy, big afro, musical notes everywhere. That's 1000% Brook. And the person right next to Brook is Gunko. And that is a child. So it's like, okay, 1 minute you have an adult woman screaming, and then the next minute you see a little kid. So that is why I don't know if they're the same person. Could be, doesn't have to be. But nonetheless, Gunko does know Brook deep down. They shared a past oh so long ago, which does bring into question, how old is Gunko? Is she perhaps immortal and cannot age like Saint Saturn and some of the other Gorosei members? Or did this take place... No, okay, never mind. It can't happen, right? Because Brook has been in the midst of Thriller Bark for ages now. So there's no way this is like the correct timeline where maybe this was during the Rumbar Pirates era. That can't be it, because Gunko looks way too damn young. So yeah, based on her appearance, I will say that Gunko, maybe 70, 80 years ago, got turned into an immortal Holy Knight, which is pretty insane. And another thing I can't really pinpoint, by the way, is whether or not it is Brook or Gunko saying, my dream is to become a pirate. But I do think it would make sense if either one of them were to say it, because Brook obviously is a pirate right now and was a pirate with the Rumbar Pirates. And then for Gunko, we've seen a lot of kids want to grow up to be pirates, so it wouldn't shock me if she wanted to be that at one point, and then now look at her and she's a Holy Knight. I think that'd be pretty cool. Like, maybe she looks in a mirror and she's like, wait, something's not right? Why am I here? This is the opposite of what I want to be. I think that'd be pretty sick. But yeah, man, Gunko has an entire past that she just straight up doesn't remember. And now I'm just wondering, why doesn't she remember? Is this one of Imu's abilities? Is he able to just mind zap you or something? Because that's what it seems like, right? And if you look at the panels where Gunko is remembering this, Oda is zooming in to only her left eye. You gotta remember, she has heterochromia eyes, which is one of the main reasons why people thought that she was part Imu, which is a pretty crazy call out now that I think about it. But yeah, the left eye seems to be Gunko's true eye, the eye that she originally had. And then the right eye is Imu's eye. And the reason I say that is because when we see Imu taking over Gunko, Oda does the opposite. He zooms in to her right eye. So yeah, the left eye is going to be the real Gunko, the right eye is all Imu. Maybe the eye is what's doing it, right? Maybe Imu scooped out her eye and with it her memories, and then they implanted their own eye with their own different memories or something. I don't really know how that works, right? And I did wonder at first if Imu could do this with the other Holy Knights. Like, for example, Saint Sommers. Could Imu take over Saint Sommers, erase his memories, and just go full on sicko mode with him? I initially would think yes, but now that I'm paying more attention to the eyes, I'm gonna say no, and that this is a Gunko specific thing, which of course calls back into question, why Gunko? Right? Gunko is not a celestial. She never had or was never shown with the saint title. We don't even know Gunko's last name. Hell, is Gunko even her name? Right? Because she has no memories, Gunko could literally just be a made-up name given to her by Imu. And it goes back to the meaning of the name Gunko as well, because Gunko translates to military child. So yeah, I think this is all made up. And yeah, I don't know how Gunko fell into possession of the Holy Knights. Like, maybe somebody went to Brook's kingdom and saw a little kid and said, hey, let's kidnap her. But usually the celestial dragons don't really promote you or train you when they do that. They just kind of abuse you. So why was Gunko so special? Did she show a lot of promise as a kid? Was she just strong or something? I have no clue. But yeah, there's just a lot of things here, man. And after this, now that Gunko is regaining some of her memories, she actually runs off towards Brook, and it's super sad. I don't know why, but like, this chapter was filled with emotion, right? From Scopper and Colin all the way to Brook and Gunko. She runs off to him. She says, wait, Brook, is that really you? And then right before she can make it to him, right before Brook can even notice that Gunko is running towards him, she gets taken over. Imu tears away this reunion from us, from Brook, from Gunko, and they say, "What is all of this commotion? The Holy Land is currently in a sea of flames. I require your military might. Mu will show thee the domination of God." So I've seen a couple of different translations with this, and all of them paint a different picture, which, you know, if you only read one translation, you might be like, wait, what? What are you talking about, Sai? So when Imu first takes over and he uses the telepathy to talk to all the God Knights here, on TCB, he says, or she, we don't know Imu's gender, but I'll talk about that here in a second again, but they say, "What is with all of this commotion?" But in other translations, I have seen them say, "What is taking you so long?" So that right there paints two very different pictures, right? What is all the commotion is just kind of like a throwaway line, like, what are you guys doing? But why are you taking so long paints a different picture entirely, because the God Knights haven't been here for that long at all, right? They showed up maybe 10 chapters ago, which for us is 3 to 4 months, but for the God Knights, that's like maybe an hour, 2 hours tops, right? So if Imu were to jump in here and say, "What's taking you all so long?" I think that does bring into question how does time work here in Elbaph, and if it has anything to do with Louis Arnaud's message and how you shouldn't linger in Elbaph for too long. So that one is still into question right now. I've seen 2 to 3 different translations. I am still waiting for the Viz to release on Sunday to see what they also say about this. But yeah, I'm curious about that line. And I do want to pass the question on to you guys. Which translation are you guys leaning towards? Because depending on that, it can really throw theories into whack for a little bit. So as far as the other translation that is a little bit skewed, it's when Imu talks about Thou seems to require additional military force. So on TCB, it kind of paints the picture that the God Knights here need assistance, so Imu will show you how it's done, which I think that might be the correct translation. But in some other translations, they actually say, "I require your military force back in the Holy Land," is kind of what they're inferring. So I think that also makes sense. I think both could be true even, because if the Holy Land is currently under attack, Imu would want these guys to go back home too, right? And maybe that is why he is displaying his might here. "I will help you wrap this job up so you can get your asses back home." So yeah, when it comes to those two differing translations, I think there is a world where they're both correct, and I don't think it really harms the story one way or the other. But for the time one versus commotion one, that is the main pickle. So, what do we talk about next? Okay, do we talk about the Holy Land, Imu, or the rest of the God Knights? Let's talk about Imu. So Imu is here, and this is something I think a lot of people wanted to happen. Granted though, I haven't seen that many people saying that they wanted Imu specifically here in Elbaph, but a lot of people did want a big bad villain to arrive, right? At first, that character, that villain, was Loki. Loki turned out to be a good guy, and then that is when Shamrock arrived, and Shamrock was the big bad villain of Elbaph. And then Shamrock left. You know, Shamrock went back home, potentially because of the war taking place in the Holy Land. And after Shamrock departed, a lot of people said, hey, the God Knights are threatening, but are they going to be an issue for the Straw Hats? Specifically, for the Monster Trio. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and then plus you got throwing Loki in there because he's apparently a good guy now. And it's like, yeah, like the Holy Knights would kind of get whomped, right? Like there's a reason why Oda put those boys in the underworld and they have no clue what the hell is going on up here in the Sun Realm, right? It's because they would just run amok. You know, maybe I'm biased when I say that, but I truly do think Luffy would beat all of them. Maybe not in a 1v3, but if you were to divvy up the fights, I do think I'd put my money on Luffy. So yeah, like I wasn't that threatened by these dudes. But here we have it. We finally got an overwhelming power on the opposite side in the form of the final freaking villain of the series. You know, people argue whenever I say that, right? They're like, oh, it's Blackbeard. Oh, no, it's Imu. It's Blackbeard. It's Imu. Either way, I think a lot of people can come to the consensus that Imu is one of the final fights in One Piece. You know, he is that Void Century Joy Boy villain. So I am expecting a lot out of Imu right now. I mean, God, dude. You know, for Shamrock, you know, I was like, maybe we beat him, maybe we push him back. But Imu is different. I think Imu is just one of those characters that hopefully does not lose here. If they do lose, there is some cope to be had, you know. If Imu does catch an L, there is cope to be had. Because we gotta remember that this is not Imu's real body. Right? This is Imu possessing Gunko. And since that is happening, it does bring into question, how strong will they end up being? Will Imu be nerfed by Gunko's body? Because, you know, if you've watched a lot of anime, you've possibly seen the trope where they're like, oh, I'm controlling them, I'm big and I'm strong, but that body, that weak and fragile body cannot handle my power. Maybe it's one of those things like that, where Gunko's body cannot project everything Imu can do, or maybe Imu is limited to what Gunko can do. Like maybe Imu has all these crazy powers, but since he's possessing Gunko, he can only use the Arrow no Mi. Regardless though, it looks like Imu's Haki is being displayed here though, because Gunko is just straight up spewing black lightning, right? Conker's Haki is erupting from Gunko's pores. It's freaking crazy, brother. Also, shoutouts to the eyes, but Imu does end up taking over Gunko's eyes in that final panel. And not just that, but Imu also gives Gunko long hair. Huh. If you look at Gunko before that final panel, you'll see that she has a nice little pixie cut going on, right? I think it's pretty damn cute. But in that final panel, dude, Gunko's hair, it grows out. What's up with that, right? Is this confirmation that Imu is indeed a woman? I'm pretty mixed on it. You know, guys do have long hair sometimes, man. I mean, look at this, right? My hair is getting kind of long, right? My wife wants me to grow it out, and that's exactly what I'm doing, right? Eventually, it'll be in a nice little samurai ponytail, but yeah, my hair's long. So maybe that's what Imu's rocking. Or Imu could just be a woman. I am really hesitant. A lot of people are saying this kind of looks like Nami's hair even, which people like to bring Nami into the Celestial Dragon equation. I think that's a fun little theory. People are even saying this is Queen Lily hair, which I think is pretty damn interesting, because back when we had that King Cobra chapter, people were dropping theories that maybe, just maybe, Imu was possessing Lily. Those theories, again, were theories that I didn't believe in at the time, but now that we know that Imu can genuinely take over bodies and erase memories, maybe I have to revisit those theories again, right? Maybe there is a world where Queen Lily is still alive and is simply being possessed by Imu. Crazy world we live in, brother. So now that Imu is here, I am expecting an absolute slaughter to take place here in Elbaph. And because Imu is here, I also wonder if Sommers and Killingham will start slaughtering as well. Which might sound a little bit ridiculous, right? Because Sommers has already kind of been beaten, but he's still around. He's still kicking. Now that his boss is here, now that their king is here, or queen, I expect them to show out. And possibly, maybe Imu will unlock their powers or give them more powers, right? Because back on Egghead Island, we saw that Imu is able to take away the Gorosei's abilities and their lifespan because he executed Saint Saturn from a distance. So who's to say that he's not also able to divvy up and give additional powers to his boys too? Like Saint Sommers, for example. Saint Sommers is down for the count for the time being, but what if Imu simply, boom, gives him more life force or gives him more soul power or demon powers, and Sommers gets back up and he's stronger than ever? That'd be pretty sick. And plus, we have seen that Imu is kind of like the main connector here, especially with the Mark of the Abyss. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Imu acts as a Yuhawaha at a Bleach and is able to give people more boost in abilities. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot from Imu, man, and now I'm kind of wondering what's gonna happen, because the original plan was for Gunko to hold the kids hostage. But now that Gunko is no longer here and that it's Imu, is Imu gonna continue playing this game and holding hostages? Or will Imu simply go around the island and blitz people? I think that's another big thing, right? Like, the whole goal is to bring Elbaph to a heel. Kidnapping the kids was supposed to be a fun way to go about that. But now that their boss is here, I wouldn't be shocked if Imu just goes around beating people to submission. And hey, if that's the case, you know, if Imu's going around taking names and kicking ass, I really do hope that the boys show up soon. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Loki, Harden, for all the Harden fans out there. I want them to show up pretty quick, man. I mean, hell, you know, Scopper is currently falling to the underworld alongside Chopper. Who's to say that they don't simply fall in front of Loki and the group? You know, because that could happen, right? Like, Elbaph is big, but you know how animes work. If they're falling down to a location, they're just going to end up in front of the MC. And that is how Luffy and the gang will find out about what is going on up here in the Sun Realm. Who do you think will succeed here in Elbaph now that the leader, the head honcho of the entire world has shown up? And also, what kind of nickname are we gonna give to this hybrid character? I think Imco is the easiest one, but I guess Gunmu would also work, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue as easily. So yeah, where would you guys put your money? Would you want Imu to win? Would you want the Straw Hats to win? I'd like to hear all those opinions down below. Personally, man, I just do not want the final villain to get mogged on here in Elbaph. I think that would be such negative PR for Imu, and I think the WG needs at least one W out there, man. They need one W. Let Imu be that W. So with that being said, though, I do think there is an interesting route Oda could go with in this arc, and that would be to simply have a character sever the Imu Gunko connection. That way, Imu doesn't technically lose, and that way, the Straw Hats don't technically win, right? Maybe there's a way to just break that tether, and we get the real Gunko back in action. And if a character were to do that, I think it would either be Luffy, because of Gear 5th and because of his hockey, or if we tackle this from a more poetic angle, maybe Brook is the one who severs this connection in the end, right? Because Gunko's memories include Brook. Gunko is running towards Brook. Maybe if Brook whips out the guitar or the violin and starts playing a tune he played for Gunko in the past, maybe that is what Gunko needs to take control of her body and to regain all of her lost memories. I think that'd be really nice, and that's kind of what I'm banking on, right? As much as I love Luffy coming in and just doing all the heavy lifting, I would love it if Brook got this time to shine. Like, imagine all the Straw Hats are down, you know, Imu's overwhelming everybody, and then here comes Brook with the violin going crazy, man. I think that'd be so amazing for Brook. I gotta say, dude, Brook, for me, has always been a character I've been pretty iffy on. I really liked him during Thriller Bark, but after that arc, Brook kind of just faded into the background. Yeah, he had his little bits and gags here and there, but he never really stole an arc, in my opinion. All right, people look back at Whole Cake Island and they look at the scene where, you know, he called Big Mom Little Lady and he had the soul music behind him, and that's cool, but it was like a flash in the pan for me, right? It was there one minute, it was gone the next. I wanted something a little bit more substantial. And this right here, getting more Brook backstory, this is it, man. And I love that for Brook and all the Brook fans out there. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? How would you want this Gunko situation wrapped up? Do you want somebody to sever the connection, or no? Do you think we should just beat the hell out of Imu? I would love to hear that down below. And also, now that we know that deep down, Gunko is indeed a good person, I gotta ask the question. I mean, people get sick of it, right? Every damn arc, somebody always has to say it. But will Gunko join the Straw Hats as the 10th crewmate? I know, dude. You're sick of it, right? Ever since Zoe, we had Carrot, We had freaking Yamato. We had people still bring up Vivi, right? And then we got to Egghead and people bring up Bonnie. They bring up Lilith. People brought up Loki. And now, I gotta ask, man, will Gunko be that girl? You know, as far as I go, like, personally, I always felt like our last crewmate is going to be a girl. I just feel like right now it's a sausage fest, brother. We got 8 guys in the crew, only 2 women. I wanted one more girl. So that is why I went pretty hard in on Yamato. I was pretty hard in on Bonnie. And now that Gunko's here, maybe Gunko's it. Maybe Gunko is it. You never know, brother. You never know. So now, last thing we have to talk about in this video, but the Holy Land. It is under attack. And we gotta ask, by who? Who's attacking the Holy Land? I think the most obvious answer would be Dragon. Dragon has openly declared war on the world government. He has been waiting for the Holy Knights to make a move so that he could make a move, and his entire character revolves around revolution. I would be shocked if the person currently attacking the Holy Land is not Monkey D. Dragon. Brother, you know, talk about negative PR. Do you know how badly Dragon will get slandered if the first person in the current story who attacks the Holy Land isn't Monkey D. Dragon? It's gotta be him. It's gotta be him, right? You know, like, it can't be anybody else. Which, you know, I say it can't be anybody else, but the other options would be Blackbeard, and my dark horse would be red-haired Shanks. So to talk about Blackbeard for a second, we do know that Blackbeard has been monitoring the situation up in the Holy Land, right? He's been watching Dragon and the Revs destroying the Bondolas, so we know that Blackbeard somehow, some way, will slip into this equation. And for all we know, maybe it is Blackbeard and Dragon attacking the Holy Land. Or maybe Dragon's attacking and Blackbeard is defending it for some odd reason. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could be at play there. And you might be wondering, Sai, why'd you bring up red-haired Shanks, you know, as your dark horse? And that's because I feel like that is the odd answer, right? Like, I've just been seeing people throw around Dragon and Blackbeard, so I wanted to bring in a third option just for the sake of it. And I think Shanks would also kind of fit in, mainly because he has familial ties, and because I believe he also knows where that last road poneglyph is. And we did see, you know, when Shiryu was talking about who might have that 4th road poneglyph in the man marked by flames, he said it wouldn't be super shocking if the world government had it and they were holding it so that nobody could find the One Piece. Maybe that's it. You know, maybe this is Shanks going after that 4th road poneglyph, and it really is up there like Shiryu predicted. I think that'd be pretty freaking crazy. If I had to bring in a 4th option, I don't think Cross Guild would fight the Holy Land right now. That doesn't make any sense, right? Unless they also know that they have like a 4th road poneglyph or, you know, something like that. I don't think they would go there. The Big Mom Pirates, no. Kaido, I mean, no. Yeah, I think that's really it. You know, those are the most obvious ones, just Dragon, Blackbeard, Shanks. So yeah, I guess all that's left is to ask you guys, out of those options, and more if you can think of them, who do you think is attacking Marie Joie? Oh, that being said, y'all, that is it for today's video. Let me know what you thought about all of this down below. What do you think about this crazy chapter? How do you feel about Scopper going down, Sommers going down, and Imu making an appearance? Personally, I'm freaking hyped, dude. Yet I want to see what the domination of God will actually look like, right? How crazy will Imu go? And also, Gunko! I really love Gunko, man. From the design to everything, and now we have this potential sad backstory. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But yeah, I'll catch you all later. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I really freaking appreciate it. If you want to check me out on the side, I have a anime reaction channel called Sommers Reacts here on YouTube. I react to One Piece, Black Butler, and anything else that's airing that season that catches my interest. I also have a gaming channel called Psyduck here on YouTube where I post gaming clips from my Twitch channel, which is also called Psyduck. So I'll catch you guys there if you show up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys in the next couple of days. Make sure to comment all your theories and opinions down below, because we will be doing a follow-up video to this video where we go through the comment section and read what you guys are talking about. But until then, I'll catch y'all later. Stay safe, and peace out, brother.